Hi, it's Wednesday, October the 9th, and we're tracking Major Hurricane Milton in the Gulf of Mexico. The system is quickly approaching landfall in western Florida, and we're expecting that landfall sometime tonight. The general area that we can expect landfall is between, say, Clearwater and Sarasota, Florida. That's the general range models are honing into now. And this is important for areas further south of there, like Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel Island, Charlotte Harbor, because you're going to be on the south side of this hurricane. You're going to get a lot of onshore push of water. Unfortunately, maximized near high tide, and we're likely to see a very significant storm surge event in areas here that were unfortunately hit very hard a couple of years ago with Hurricane Ian. Now, further north, this is going to be a very sensitive forecast for areas like Tampa Bay. If the system does come south of you, you might avoid that historic storm surge that we have talked about was possible here with the system if it came in north of Tampa. But on the other side, if it comes further north, they onto a track closer to Clearwater, you could easily have that historic storm surge pushing right into the Tampa Bay area, and that would be a very significant disaster. Now, having said that, even though the system right now on the current Hurricane Center forecast track is south of the Tampa Bay area, the forecast still calls for 8 to 12 feet of storm surge in the Bay Area, which we had 5 to 8 feet with Helene, and that was very significant. This is even higher than what Helene had brought, so still a significant surge event in the Bay Area. And unfortunately, in areas like Sarasota Beach, we could have as much as 10 to 15 feet of storm surge as the system comes in, as you'll likely be on the south side of that hurricane as it comes in. Now, as a result of this structure degrading with the wind shear, you can see that the system is broadening out. We're getting the system to increase its wind size. It's probably going to be doubled in size from where it was yesterday by the time we're at landfall. And that's very important because you can already see the hurricane force wind fields are extending very far out from the center of the hurricane. This is important for wind impacts because now it's spreading over a broader area, so across much of the Florida Peninsula, you're going to have hurricane force winds. But also, this is, especially on the south side, pushing a lot more of the Gulf of Mexico towards the coast. And that water, once it comes to the coast, it has to go somewhere. So it's going to come right into those barrier islands and those bay areas. And that significant surge is likely going to be seen, as you can see on this forecast here. And again, from, say, the south area of Tampa Bay all the way down past Sarasota Beach, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, Charlotte Harbor, Sanibel Island, Fort Myers Beach, 8 to 12 feet of surge in Tampa Bay itself as well, in areas around Clearwater as well. 8 to 12 feet of storm surge could occur here as the system comes in. Now, I want to note as well, we'll also have a significant surge on the east coast of Florida. It may not be talked about all too much in the news, but we will likely have a significant onshore push along the northeastern coast of Florida. This will be as the system moves offshore and interacts with a cold front. And you can see this if we go into the HMON model. This is one of our hurricane models, and you can see it brings it in just south of Tampa. One important thing for Tampa, this would bring the northern eye wall ashore, which will have likely the strongest winds with the hurricane, so that could easily cause a lot of power outages and a lot of damage as the system comes through the metro area. But you can see it continues to push through the peninsula, and it could easily have hurricane force winds throughout the entire peninsula. As you can see, as it comes offshore, we still have hurricane force winds associated with the system once it comes offshore. And you can see that cold front I was talking about. We have southeasterly flow meeting this more southwesterly flow along this boundary here. And this is a temperature contrast. So we have colder air here, warmer air here. And because of that temperature contrast, you're going to get a strong fetch of winds coming right into the northeastern coast of Florida. You can see a large fetch of 50 knot plus winds. That's 60 mile per hour or higher winds coming right into areas along this part of the coastline, and that's why we have a storm surge warning in place. It's why the Hurricane Center expects 3 to 5 feet of storm surge inundation along that part of the coastline. You can also then see that may extend into portions of Georgia, northern Georgia, and South Carolina on their coastlines. You can see this is the current Hurricane Center forecast cone. Anywhere in red is under a hurricane warning, as in this entire area you could face hurricane force winds as the system pushes through the peninsula. We also have tropical storm watches for all of southern Florida and the northern Bahamas, and in northeastern Florida and hurricane watch, including areas like Jacksonville, as we will again have that strong push of winds that could have some hurricane force winds on the backside of Milton. Now, the system will be moving at a pretty quick pace. You can see by Friday, it's turning post-tropical, and it's well out to sea by that point, and conditions will continue to improve as we'll hopefully get some of this dry air that you can see on water vapor imagery behind our storm that's making it feel so nice in the southern United States. Hopefully we can get some of this dry air to push in here so we can get recovery underway after the system pushes through in this part of Florida. Now, storm surge is not going to be the only water issue that we have. You can see the rainfall forecast is significant as the system pushes through the peninsula. A large area of 8 to 12 inches of rainfall is expected here, with many areas expected to exceed a foot of rainfall along the peninsula. And this is already saturated ground here in Florida, so that could easily lead to flash flooding issues. And you can see as a result, the Weather Prediction Service has issued a high risk of storm surge, or not storm surge, of flash flooding, that being a very significant risk of flash flooding for areas like Tampa, Sarasota, Clearwater, all the way east, including areas as well like Orlando, and it's moderate risk extending down all the way to Port Charlotte, Fort Myers, and as far north as Cedar Key, and going towards say Daytona Beach along the east coast of Florida. And you can see the rainfall on the model as it comes in. You can see that we have a large fetch of rainfall on the northern side. It's a very northern side loaded storm, and you can see all these high reflectivity values on this model in the reds and purples. That's very heavy rainfall, and that can dump, even though the system is moving at a quick pace, that can dump a foot of rainfall in a very short period of time, and that could easily lead to flooding issues. So if you're in any flash flood warnings that are issued, make sure you take proper precautions ahead of that and listen to them. Alongside that, you can also see we have this squall line on the east side of it on the model. This could have tornadic cells within it, and we're already seeing some tornadoes touch down today. And this is a unique day for a hurricane. You usually don't get too many strong tornadoes from a hurricane, but we do have a risk of that. And what I mean by strong tornadoes, by definition, that's an EF2 or higher. And so if you're in Florida and you're in a tornado warning today, make sure you're taking the necessary precaution for that. Lowest floor of your house, most interior room. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Especially when you get into the significant category of tornadoes, that's when you can start to get roofs to come off, walls to collapse. So it's very important that you are most inside that you can be, so you're protected as much as you can be from that tornado. It's also a good idea to have even just a bike helmet to protect your head as a tornado comes through, and also have sturdy shoes if you have to walk around the debris afterwards. But you can see that enhanced risk there from the Storm Prediction Center on that map across the Florida Peninsula. So a wide array of impacts coming in as Milton moves through. Stay safe in Florida as the system comes through. This will be my last video on it as the forecasting phase is done with this storm, and hopefully the damage is not as bad as we expect in Florida as Milton comes in. Now, briefly before I end the video, I want to quickly touch on the rest of the Atlantic. We do have a couple other systems active. We have an area of interest here southwest of Bermuda. This is a weak frontal low, which is unlikely to develop. This 40% chance of development may even be generous right now. I wouldn't expect much development out of that, but you could see some impacts from that and Milton and Bermuda as both of these lows track towards the east in Bermuda. We also have Hurricane Leslie out here. This is turning out to sea and is no threat to land. You can see in the Hurricane Center forecast count for this system, expected to weaken and turn post-tropical during the weekend, and it may near the Azores, and it's possible we have some impacts there in early next week, but it's forecast to be a very weak low, so impacts are not be expected to be significant in any way for the Azores. And we also have a tropical wave that's coming off of Africa in the next day. This is a very low chance of developing as it moves to the Cabo Verde Islands, and past those islands it's really no threat to land, so really no concern there. And as of right now, no areas of interest in the Caribbean or Gulf of Mexico, so we're probably going to get a little bit of a quiet period. We may have to watch it a week or so. We'll see how model trends go on that. But as of now, things are getting quiet here in the Western Atlantic after Milton, which I'm sure a lot of people, especially in Florida, are happy to hear. That's all that I've got for today. Again, stay safe in Florida as Milton comes through. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.